everyone, it's Justine. Welcome to a new video. Today we're going to be making bulk Christmas cards and I'm really excited to show you how I did it. Now when I'm creating bulk cards, there's just a few things that make things super easy. I'm going to show you those right now. One of them is the Scrapbook.com pre-cut blank note cards already in A2 size, 5.5 by 8.5, scored in the center at 4 1/4 inches, already done for me in Neenah Solar White. When I'm doing bulk cards, keeping it simple is key. So I'm going to be doing cards today using the golden Quatrefoil foiled craft card from Tonic Studios. And I'm going to be using this for my card front, so just nice and easy cutting these out. I'm also going to be using my MISTI stamping tool to do some bulk stamping. So let's get started. The key with doing bulk cards not only is keeping it simple, but it also has to do with doing things in an assembly line. So you'll want to get out your paper trimmer and cut everything in the beginning. Okay, so when you start, the first thing you're going to want to do is to cut down all your cardstock at the same time. Now, golden Quatrefoil cardstock from Tonic Studios comes in A4 size, not an 8.5 by 11. So it's actually 8 1/4 by roughly a little over 11.5 inches. So it's a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it down to 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And this is going to fit perfectly with a nice little frame around my cardstock when it is all finished. So if you take a look when the cards are all done, they'll have a nice white border around them. If you don't want a white border, then you might have a little bit of wasted cardstock if working with this type, but you can use any sort of American standard size pattern paper, and then you'll be absolutely just fine. So you would just keep cutting paper, cutting paper, cutting paper until you are all ready with the sizes with however many you would need. So when creating bulk, remember you're doing everything in one step. So I'm cutting all of this now. Now bulk cards are exactly what you're going to want to make them. So you want to keep things simple, but I think depending on your card making ability, simple means something different to everyone. So what I try and do is I try and make generally the same card, or I might switch up the sentiment a little bit here and there, just kind of up to what I feel like and how much time that I have. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to do a nice gold embossed sentiment. And I'm going to be using some stamps from Scrapbook.com. So when I'm creating my Christmas cards, I generally try to create some that have a religious connotation and some that do not. That way I can kind of give accordingly to plan accordingly to who I'm going to give it to. And these two stamp sets are really perfect. These are called Big Bold Holidays and Big Bold Christmas, and these are really perfect. I try and pick really bold sentiments when I am making my bulk cards just to make things easier. That way, this is so detailed, I don't have to do too much else. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stamp the Happy Holidays, and I'm going to stamp the Merry Christmas. Let's do these two. And I'll stamp them both at the same time. And that way I save time with stamping, I save time with cutting out. It's completely up to me. And by placing kind of them on opposite ends, I have room for my magnet to sit there if I need it to, because I know a lot of people like to have their magnet when they're stamping with their MISTI. I'm definitely not that type of person, but I'll indulge for the video. So now I've stamped this using some Versamark ink. And I'm going to go ahead and just pour the embossing powder on top. Now I like to do this and then I like to heat emboss at the very end. As long as you have the embossing powder over top of the Versamark ink in a good amount of time, you have time to work with it. It stays wet for a fairly long time. I think I can stamp probably about 3 or 4 of these before it would start to kind of dry up a little bit, but I like to just cover it right away. So I am using some sparkly gold embossing powder. And then I'm gonna go ahead and grab another panel and I'm gonna do the exact same thing. Now remember, you're going to want to prep your page here with an embossing bag so that no embossing powder sticks to it. And then once again, I just have a piece of copy paper here just for quick purposes here, funneling things back in and covering these with the embossing powder. And then you're going to do as many as you need done. So if you're making 50 cards, you're gonna wanna do this 25 times because you're stamping 2 at a time. So it saves you some time by adding sentiments on the same panel that you're going to cut out. Okay, so now that I'm finished all my stamping, I now have everything ready to start heat embossing. So I like to, again, assembly line it. Don't forget to heat up your heat tool for about 40 to 60 seconds before using it. So now that you're all finished heat embossing, it's really up to you whether you want to, let's say, die cut these using a stitched rectangle die, for example, or if you want to just simply cut them out with your paper trimmer. So cutting them out with the paper trimmer couldn't be really much easier because these are really great sentiments to have in your stash because they're literally the size of your card. So the paper that I had stamped these on is, I believe, 4 inches wide. And so I had some pre-cut panels here that I had. And then I can just simply go ahead like this and get my sentiments all prepped. And again, up to you. I could put these onto some black cardstock, mount them. I can mount them as is onto the Quatrefoil cardstock. I try and pick cardstock that is pretty busy, and that way it, like, you know, it really looks quite great when it's all said and done. So that it looks complex. It looks like I embossed this background as well, but really it's just pattern paper. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is just grab my card bases here. Again, I bought pre-cut, pre-scored ones from Scrapbook.com, but you could, of course, cut your own, score your own. Completely up to you. I usually score my own, but when it comes to creating bulk cards at such a busy time of the year, I generally try to then go ahead and really just use what is necessary and what's quickest and easiest versus what's more cost effective. That's just me, but completely up to you. You could sit in front of the TV one night and just cut up all your card bases that you need. I've done that in the past as well. So just doing 6 of these for the purpose of the video. Of course, my Christmas card list is a lot longer than that one. I'm now gonna go ahead and grab my adhesive here from Scrapbook.com, and I'm just going to simply add a few rows on that, and then keep it on the card base as straight as I can, leaving that white frame around. That's my signature look. I mean, it's completely up to you how you make your cards, but I love to have a frame around it. It kind of reminds me of a piece of art. It's framed when it's all done. And so I always work on card panels and not on card bases directly. There's also a second reason behind that. If I end up screwing up at some point and making a mistake, then throwing away a piece of 4 by 5 1/4 piece of cardstock to me is not as big of a deal as throwing out an entire card base. I mean, of course, you could cut down that card base, use the other side, but, you know, I just think this is just a lot easier and quicker. Oh, I kind of had one extra card base there. Okay, so now I have all of my bases ready to go. I've got my cardstock prepped here. I would now go in with my custom stamp, give them a good stamping there at the bottom, so people know who it's, you know, that I'm handmade everything. And then you can go ahead and add your titles. Now again, completely up to you if you want to use foam tape at this point in time. You want to keep things flat and friendly for the postal service. Really depends on the country you live in, I find. Like for me to add, you know, a little bit of bulk to my cards doesn't really make a difference at all, but I think in the States it does. And I know in the UK it definitely did. I remember being shocked at the price I had to pay for postage when I added a little bit of bulk to it. So you might want to keep things just quick and easy so you aren't surprised when you go to the post office to send them off and you have to pay extra. That's never fun. And so for me, quick, easy, simple cards are definitely the way to go, especially if you have to make a lot of them. I tend to do like quite a few Christmas videos on my YouTube channel beforehand, so I always have some that are, you know, individually made, and I save those for people who really love to receive my cards and really appreciate them. And then for everyone else, they kind of get my bulk cards, which are still nice, of course, but they're all generally the same. The nice thing about the Quatrefoil cardstock as well is that it's nice and easy to line up your sentiments. So as long as you have a straight edge from your paper trimmer, you can see where the Quatrefoils are and line up your edges quite easily. So now I've created some very quick, easy, simple cards in just a few minutes. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and have a wonderful day. Bye for now.